You missed Tulsi's Dem exit.
Now, it's interesting because this was super predictable, and I feel like over the years, Matt, you can back me up on this, we predicted this years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we even announced it years ago, but yeah.
It's been obvious for quite a while, but she decided to make it official because she's going to parlay this into some sort of media career.
Well, it wasn't official when she told us.
I don't think, I will say this, I don't think it's a media career.
She might be thinking
She is
bigger.
going around. Yeah. She is going to be campaigning with Bolduck in New Hampshire. She is campaigning with another Trump primary winner in Washington State, I think, in Congress.
Yeah, Joe Kent, who had a strategy call with Nick Fuentes last year, and has been a pro Fuentes guy. That's the kind of people that she's stumping for.
I mean, over the years, I know that people have said this, and I thought, like, no, she's looking for a media career, and we should say these are not mutually exclusive on the right. Right? I mean, like, literally, they're not mutually exclusive. Like, there are things, I think, if you wanted to run for Democratic office, it would be trickier to have a media career and do so as a Democrat, just in terms of, like, what it would take to succeed. Not completely, but the Venn diagram for what you need to do to succeed in right-wing media and what you need to do to succeed in right-wing politics is like a complete, perfectly overlaid. And so they don't have to be mutually exclusive, but the idea that she's going out and campaigning for specifically Trump Republicans suggests to me that she is making her play to be VP.
Well, we played Greg Kelly already saying she should be Trump's VP on Newsmax. That's already begun. But she went back on Joe Rogan to discuss why she, hashtag left the left here. And I find her usage of the word cult in a comparison to the Democratic Party to be really interesting. If anyone read that 2017 New Yorker piece about how she grew up in a cult and was kind of part of the fabric of said cult, perhaps there's a bit of projection going on here, but she's back on Rogan, and he's allowing her to spread her message to the world. Here she is.
That's the danger of it, is the people in charge of the Democratic Party, whether they actually hold positions or they just are influential in the Democratic Party, have created this cult-like atmosphere and fomented this fear so much so that people who are really in a position to impact this, to stand up against it and say, hold on, guys, this is literally insane and needs to stop. They're too afraid to do so because of what the ramifications will be. The Democratic Party of the past, the Democratic Party that I joined, doesn't exist anymore. The party that was the party of JFK, of Dr. Martin Luther King, the party of inclusivity, the big tent party that welcomed and encouraged this marketplace of ideas and conversations and people who held different views, the party of, that championed women and equality and the rights of people in our society. That party it doesn't exist anymore. And instead we have a party that's being led by people who have gone insane with this ideological fanaticism. And there are a lot of different issues, a lot of different examples. The whole issue of biology and the trans issue is just one of them. There are so many different others. Parents you don't have a right to raise your kids now. You don't have a right to say what they're being
Pause it for a second.
Yeah,
Pause it for a second. Mm-hmm. I mean, the idea that you would start your list of issues on where the Democratic Party has become just completely taken over by ideologues, that you would start your list with trans issues. There have been something like 60 to 80 anti-trans pieces of legislation passed this year in Republican state houses. There's one in Michigan that's just been introduced where it would criminalize parents allowing any type of transitional therapies, any type of trans care whatsoever. The number of pieces of legislation that have been passed increasing trans people's rights in this country this year, I believe, maybe on a state level and on a federal level, is zero.
Well, best defense is a good offense, right? And I just want to, this is actually incredibly consistent with her because it's not, she's been anti-gay and anti-LGBTQ for her entire career and had to hide that when she actually became a representative of Hawaii, in Congress. But it wasn't just that she grew up in the cult. It was the fact that her campaign staff, virtually all of them, were members of this science of identity folks. And they were kind of hiding and obscuring the fact that they were involved in this cult, as has been described. And so what is foundational to her ideology and what the through line has been fundamentalist beliefs that have also been Islamophobic and anti-gay. And that is the only thing that she's been consistent on pretty much her entire career, because her purported anti-war stance, she was pro-torture. She also served and had different positions on it back then.
We're at war with radical Islam.
She had no problem with the so-called war on terror. Yes. Right. I mean,
she was going on Fox to actually to be a Democratic voice criticizing Obama for not calling out radical Islam.
I'm also curious as to what part of the Republican Party she thinks is no longer hostile to the things that the so-called former Democratic Party that she joined. And I don't know if she was even alive when JFK was president. Frankly,
when she joined it, she was anti-gay. Her and her dad were anti-gay politicians.
Yes,
so
she started off. People forget this. She started off as a conservative Democrat when she was elected to office. She was a conservative Democrat, and then she became more progressive as she saw where things were going. And I mean, let's also remember, she endorsed Joe Biden.
Right.
I don't know what it is that she thinks, this was, I guess really, I mean, I don't think she believes anything that she says, to be honest with you. But I think really what we're seeing is just sort of the stupidity of anyone who accepts what she's talking about.
Well,
I mean, because I don't think she believes anything she's saying at all.
All is forgiven if you are a useful tool to the right. We're seeing this with Herschel Walker. We saw it with Trump, and she's their why I left the left person. The Democratic Party's gone too insane, and she literally did run for president as a Democrat, so that provides a lot of just equity for the right when they're trying to talk about the Democrats.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm talking about to the extent that there's any sort of diehard Tulsi stands who ostensibly identify as being of the left, or even I don't. Well,
there are they've been back going after myself and Anna again, since we also were on the train of critiquing her early on. So at least I see them in my mentions. Not sure how representative they are of the rest of, I don't know.
All right, let's continue to hear this absolute bullshit.
With this ideological fanaticism. And there are a lot of different issues, a lot of different examples. The whole issue of biology and the trans issue is just one of them. There are so many different others. Parents you don't have a right to raise your kids now. You don't have a right to say what they're being taught in schools now. The state, the government, the teachers.
Pause it for 1 second. You don't even have to turn to me. I just want to remind people that the Democratic Party that she joined was led by someone who wrote a book called It Takes a Village. So the idea that somehow the Democrats have changed what they allow parents to do, it's just absurd.
Also, does Tulsi want to allow parents to seek gender
well, except for that, because that's wrong. They need to find a second opinion. But go ahead.
have that right and responsibility. They're undermining families, the rule of law. Defund the police, the Supreme Court. We don't agree with them, so they're illegitimate. There's so many different examples of these ideologues who have taken control of the Democratic Party, who don't actually care about the people. It's all about themselves, their power, and they're maintaining control. And that's the real threat to our democracy that they pose, is they don't believe in freedom of speech. They don't believe in freedom of thought. They don't believe in freedom of religion. All they believe in is you've got to buy into whatever they're selling at any given day. And like I said, not only, it's not enough to agree. You've got to go out there, you've got to march in the parade, you've got to carry the sign, you've got to scream and yell, and don't you dare even think about talking to Republicans. Don't even think about working with Republicans, because that directly undermines their authority. And frankly, Joe, this is something that I've been trying to fight against within the Democratic Party back when I was vice chair of the DNC for years, and it's gotten to a point where those who have been in charge for a long time, remain in charge, are not willing to change.
Unbelievable. I wonder how she got to be vice chair of the DNC. I mean,
I wonder if this is just because she flamed out on that attempt to rise up the DNC party.
That is what it is.
Well, yeah, no, she was fairly well placed in the DNC, and she made a bet. She made a bet that her success was going to be better suited by attaching herself to Bernie's campaign. And then when she made another bet that her success was going to be better suited to detaching herself from Bernie's campaign and supporting Biden's campaign. And then when she made the assessment that her success is going to be furthered by detaching herself from the Democratic Party, and now she's going to join the Republican Party. I mean, that's basically what it is. It's just fascinating to watch how naked the ambition is here. For how do you get into politics and believe nothing? Or I guess it really is, how do you get into politics and basically she's just reverting to what she was when she started out, which was essentially a conservative. I mean, that's it. And she's just reverting back. She's like, I tried that and increased my value, and that's where it's at.
Back to the culture war.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And I also think it's super clarifying.
Yeah.
It's
right.
It's
just being an anti-establishment Democrat, right, or somebody who critiques Democratic leadership is not something that does not wash away all of the other history about them. And I feel like the waters got muddied and people were looking for allies no matter where they could get them when Bernie was running in 2016. But we have to be pretty diligent about who we let into that coalition.
Yeah, well, I think that's important because those people aren't necessarily going to stay in that coalition.
Yeah.
They need to show, I think, a greater commitment to certain core tenets. But so bye, Tulsi.
Yeah.
Although probably not bye. I'm sure we're going to be talking about her once 2024 rolls around.
Yeah, she'll be the next Blake Masters.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
I have no doubt we're going to be talking about Tulsi Gabbard, but we're going to be talking about her in the same way that we talk about Blake Masters.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about her in the same way that we talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene, as opposed to trying to sort of this is what. It's clarifying. We went through this with Dave Rubin. We're trying to explain to people he is not a liberal. He is not a leftist. He's not on the left. He's not on the progressive. He's none of those things. He's just a right-wing guy who says these things. And then when he announced that he's right-wing, it becomes clarifying, and they slide into a different sort of a category in terms of like, you know, how you analyze what they're doing.
It is a weird category though, because like Tulsi's always going to be preceded by her reputation as former DNC vice president and like former leftist. And Dave Rubin still hasn't got off that either. That's still how they're defined.
Of course. I mean, that's their brand, and it will always be their brand, but it's now for the consumption of the right as opposed for the consumption of the left. Like, you know, Tulsi's whole shtick for a long time was for consumption on the left. Mm-hmm. And then progressively she moved for it to be consumed by the right. And that's where she just decided. I mean, you know, we've talked about this like over the years, you know, like, I you know, as a joke or as, you know, I mean, as a joke, but as like it would be sort of a fun project. Like, how would, you know, the best time for me to have made my big move to the right would have been like, you know, after my divorce. Like, you know, I'm just turned my animus from my ex-wife into like, you know, broadly, you know, just feminism in general and all of the wokeness and like men are treated unfairly in this product and the bureaucracy. Right. And it's just, it's unbelievable. And I have to say, like, the only people who have been really sympathetic to me happen to be conservative, because they seem to understand, you know, these issues. And I have to say that, like, when I get out of, you know, Brooklyn and I travel to places like Las Vegas and I meet people from other places in the country, I realize like how narrow my worldview was when I was caught inside, which is really very much like a cult. I mean, like, you know, to be in that studio where you guys are and like the pressure and the litmus test, constant litmus test, and the harping, the constant harping. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, I am making this announcement today. I mean, that's.
I mean, look, Sam, you've left Brooklyn. You're in the middle-ish of the country. Not really, but it's more to the middle than where we are on the coast.
Coastal elites.
Yeah, you're farther from the coast than you normally are, and the fog is just dissipating.
The fog is lifting, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm finally seeing things with, you know, a certain measure of clarity. Like, you know, I still have very, you know, progressive views. There are progressive views that I still agree with, like the
globalists are bad.
I think, like, you know, Social Security we should maintain, and Medicare. I wouldn't expand it because that gets getting carried away. We need to stay within our means. I've learned that out here in Vegas too. I don't go and.
It's a great place to learn that.
Yeah.
I'm not sitting down at the $100 blackjack table.
Yeah. There's no house money when you're running the United States government.
There's no, I can't, like, oh, can I gamble here for free? They would laugh me out of the room. There's no, you know, so.
Yeah, participation trophy.
That's all I'm saying. But honestly, like, what Dave Rubin and Tulsi did was just like to elongate what I just did. You know, like 3 minutes of me was just like a 3-year arc for them, and that was it. And they're going to make a lot more money.
Right.
She's going to have a lot more success, without a doubt.
Well, success is how you define it.
Grifting LaRouche people.
Oh, you love to define things, Emma. What's a woman?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. Look around, Sam. Can you identify a woman?
Right. Okay. You can't. You can't.